The meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon.
Present.
Director O'Halloran and Director Reza have asked to be excused this evening. Director Zomber.
Present.
And Chair Jackson.
Present.
That's 3 present. We have a quorum.
The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks those who do not wish to participate, please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted from the Central Service Building. This meeting is also broadcast on MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes page of the MPS website. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si deseas escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Otra vez, 312-626-6799. Introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and a public hearing. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to the Secretary, Dr. Owen Moore. We have no virtual speakers registered. For the sake of fairness tonight, and to give everyone a chance to speak, the Chair reserves the right to limit the time allowed to any one speaker. For the safety of all and to assure good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, the individual will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. And now, given that our focus this year is literacy, we have some help with our messages from one of our young readers. Nyla is a 7th grader at Story School. Welcome.
Welcome to tonight's committee meeting. The committee will accept public comments on tonight's agenda items. Speakers may only address the item for which they have registered. Questions from the public may not be answered during public comment period. Following public comment, the committee will begin its discussion and no additional comments will be accepted. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Like this, Tamika Jones, Jones. Written testimony will also be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, 82181, or email it to the governance at milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments, questions, or requests should be directed to the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. Also, no one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of board and its committees.
Yes, if we can give her a round of applause. Thank you for your bravery, your courage. You did better than you thought. See, you did a good job. I just want to thank, Dr. Tina, for implementing this part of our meetings to involve the youth. So thank you for that as well. All right. Thank you, Nyla. So if you have a child that would like to read for the board meetings, just send a message to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. If there are no objections, I would like to take the Dyer playfield item first. Madam Secretary, would you please call this item, please?
Mr. Chair, that item is item 2, report with possible action on a request for Pius High School to lease Dyer playfield. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
All right. Will the administration please present this item? All right, no problem. We're just getting it together, of course, just no dead air. But we do have a few speaker slips,
Okay.
so.
I see Director Herndon joined us. Chair Jackson and members of the committee, Brenda Caselli as superintendent, I'd like to provide the board with an update regarding the recent activities surrounding Dyer Playfield, a property owned by the city of Milwaukee and operated by Milwaukee Public Schools through our Department of Rec and Community Services. This operating relationship has been in place for more than 50 years and has ensured that the space remains accessible to our students and broader community. In September 2022, then District 10 Alderman Michael Murphy brought forward a proposed lease agreement that would have allowed Pius High School to construct an athletic facility on Dyer Playfield. That proposal was rejected as MPS opposed the privatization of public parkland actively used by students and the broader community. In June 2025, District 10 Alderwoman Charlene Moore revisited this concept, reintroducing the idea of leasing Dyer Playfield to Pius High School. I informed Alderwoman Moore and Pius representatives that MPS would not consider a new lease agreement for Dyer Playfield. I further went on to explain that the district's long-range facilities master plan was underway and that the long-range facilities master plan is designed to guide strategic decisions regarding MPS school buildings and outdoor spaces, and its findings must inform any future land use commitments. On October 23, 2025, Alderwoman Moore sent a letter to me indicating her intention to bring the Pius Dyer Playfield proposal before the Milwaukee Common Council for discussion. At this time, the specific terms of any lease have not been shared with MPS, and discussions between the city and Pius High School remain preliminary. What is known is that Pius is seeking a long-term lease of Dyer Playfield for the construction and operation of an athletic facility. MPS staff will continue to monitor developments, engage as appropriate, and keep the board informed as more information becomes available. Thank you.
Do any members of the public wish to make any comments anymore? Okay. All right. I have two right here. We have Jack Herbert as well as Lynn Grebe and also Sue Seller. You can approach them.
Good evening. My name is Jack Herbert, H-E-R-B-E-R-T, and I'm here this evening as president of Pius 11th Catholic High School, and I have a brief statement to read. Pius 11th Catholic High School is grateful for more than 50 years of partnership with the City of Milwaukee and Milwaukee Recreation and the shared use of Dyer Field for student practices and competitions. As a long-standing member of the Honey Creek Parkway neighborhood, we are committed to being a thoughtful and responsible neighbor and one that prioritizes the well-being, access, and expectations of our community. Looking ahead, Pius 11th will continue to advocate that all future use agreements of Dyer Field continue to honor this strong history of collaboration and ensure that any path forward provides shared benefits for our students, our neighbors, and the broader Milwaukee community. As a constituent of both District 7 of the Milwaukee Public School Board and the Aldermanic District 10 of the Milwaukee Common Council, we welcome the opportunity to participate in continued conversations about the future of Dyer Field and to advocate for solutions that keep our community at the center. While Pius XI has consistently emphasized that community and public access are essential to any future use agreements for Dyer Field, I want to be unmistakably clear this evening that this commitment is unwavering. Our vision of Dyer Field has always and will always place community access at the forefront. Any path forward will prioritize an upgraded, welcoming recreation space that our neighbors, our students, and the broader community can continue to enjoy for generations to come. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Greb, G-R-E-B as in boy. Chair Jackson, members of the committee, and Superintendent Caselius, I'm here to express my support for Milwaukee Public Schools and Milwaukee Recreation maintaining jurisdiction of Dyer Playfield and ultimately managing future updates to its infrastructure. While Pius's interest is understandable, transferring long-term control of a public playfield to a private institution would set a precedent that runs counter to the district's equity framework. Even with assurances of public use, private decision-making inevitably shapes who benefits. Dyer has always served far more than one school, from Special Olympics to adult sports, leagues, and everyday neighborhood use. And that broad access must be protected. Assertions that the field is currently underused only reinforce the need for a community-driven redesign that reflects the needs of today's residents, not the assumptions made when the site was first developed in the early 1960s. Milwaukee Recreation has a successful revitalization model and a commitment to serving all Milwaukee residents. The community deserves the opportunity to help shape the future of this playfield, not through a private development proposal, but through the public process that has guided the many successful playfield renovations already completed by MPS and Milwaukee Recreation. Thank you.
Next speaker walking down right now.
Good evening, Chair Jackson, esteemed members of the committee, superintendent, board clerk, and board governance staff and administration. My name is Sue Saller, former MPS employee, Pius grad, frequent user with my family of Dyer Playfield for the last 10 years and before that, playing tennis and walking the perimeter, among other things. We have observed Dyer to be very well utilized. Yes, it may need some updates, but it's currently viable, useful, not underutilized as some have incorrectly stated. But maybe they haven't been there as much as I have. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening on the future of Dyer and what would be a crucial precedent if the proposed lease agreement with Pius were to happen. Imagine every playfield in the city currently under MPS Rec's purview and various private groups wishing to carry out their specific plans on public land for the cost of a lease. Now, I love Pius. I went there. They do great things, but it's a bigger issue for me as a taxpayer of Milwaukee. Dyer is on deck to be reimagined under the capable leadership of Milwaukee Rec. Kudos to past and present leadership to include Molly Barrett, Lynn Greb, who you just heard from, and Ryan Litzy, and their amazing staffs for the collaborative processes they have already carried out with community members' input relative to other playfields with stellar results. Given this, why would you have an outside private entity lead this process instead of the rec department, which has successfully managed and permitted Dyer and others like it for decades? Why can't it continue as a collaboration? As I mentioned, it's not underutilized. Here are my observations, my personal observations. People of all ages, walks of life, coming and going at all different times. I see diversity. I see the Pius teams practicing on Dyer Field, which has been a great collaboration. Parents at the tot lot with little ones, tennis players, pickleball players, college-age kids playing frisbee, pickup football and baseball games, walkers, kids who ride their bikes up there from pretty far away to use the Milwaukee Tennis Education Foundation free rackets and balls And that's a collaboration with MPS Rec to provide cost-effective access to tennis, which is a really expensive sport. And I see lots of kids coming for that. So, and that doesn't include the permitted organizations such as Special Olympics. And when I polled the many people I've met over the years in this area, they didn't know that this was happening. I mean, it's been a discussion before, like with Alderman Michael Murphy. And kudos to President Zambor and Director Vinoy for doing doors in the neighborhood to fairly inform individuals, present the facts, and gather information. So one thing I had heard is that when renderings were available, that the football field may be locked because it has AstroTurf. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I know that Washington High School has a nice walking field that's open to the public and collaborative. So in closing, I think that it makes most sense to let the rec department maintain control of Dyer Field in a fair and collaborative process to reimagine it, to carry that out. Pius could certainly be part of that process along with the neighbors and visitors and frequent users of Dyer. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker, Warren Jones.
Good evening. Warren Jones. I'm a neighbor. I live on the house directly across from Dyer Field at the dead end of South 80th Street. I am firmly opposed to this partnership and lease agreement. I'm not opposed to improvement. I've lived there for 30 years. We built our house 30 years ago at that site. Both of our daughters went to Pius, and I value the school being there. What I don't value and what I don't really understand is the need for this expansion into the neighborhood. This is I don't want to be too pejorative, but it's a land grab. This is a non-taxed entity that wants to use non-taxed property, whereas we taxpayers, I pay $8,000 a year in taxes to have my property there. What do we get out of it other than more traffic and I don't think the use has really been established yet. I echo previous speakers who so eloquently said it isn't underutilized. We have a great vantage point from across the parkway and see kickball teams, softball teams using it, people walking their dogs, not in the park because dogs aren't allowed in the park, but to me, it's when we built 30 years ago, one of the amenities was the playfield and the park and the green space. And if it's restricted in use and not put to solid public use, it no longer is an amenity, it becomes a public nuisance. When there's not programs going on there that Pius monitors, what's it going to be used for? That very much concerns me because we have seen a lot of negative things from Pius students, not always, but some. The other thing I wanted to mention is at last year's meeting, and I've only got 10 seconds here, Joe Chernulik brought up that they want to bring student athletes into the school. I think maybe athlete students are what they're really going for because they want to compete with Lutheran and DSHA as far as this is our beautiful facility. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker slip.
Looks like that is coming up to the board floor right now.
Absolutely. If there's anybody else who would like to comment on this particular item, please feel free to do so. Magnus Bond.
That's me. Hi there. So, excuse, not usually used to talking like this
No problem.
in front of a bunch of people. Hello, board. I've lived in the Honey Creek
Can you
Parkway.
just say your first name and spell your last name?
Yes, Magnus Bond, Magnus, Bonde. All right, so I've lived in the Honey Creek Parkway neighborhood for about 20 years. First of all, I am not in support of what Pius intends to do with the Dyer playfield. Most of my neighbors have said it best. It is a community space, and using it for private use, I feel like is completely counterproductive to the neighborhood, and it completely excludes the neighbors as a whole. AstroTurfing land, sorry, this is kind of improv right here what I'm doing, but one of the points that I wanted to bring up mostly is the connection to not only the Honey Creek Parkway itself, but also to the Pick and Save just next to it. For those of us who walk to Pick and Save, it's a simple 5-minute walk. Dyer Field is a connection point. And one thing that I noticed in the blueprints, which I do understand are not final, those were simply concept pieces, but what I did notice was that it completely cuts off access to not just the parkway, but to the Pick and Save and to everything else. The neighborhood is already isolated to a degree. Some of the streets don't connect through because of the rapid transit train that used to be there back in the 40s and 50s, and it's already somewhat isolated. And I feel that Dyer Field is one of the few connections to not just 84th and Blue Mound, but also just to the wider community as a whole. But overall, I just, key point, I don't believe that the land should be used for private use. The neighborhood does use it. I do believe that is in desperate need of refurbishment. A lot of its infrastructure has not been upgraded since the early 60s, and it is in desperate need of some repairs. But otherwise, I do strongly advise you guys to look into possibly keeping it as a public amenity because the neighborhood does use it for all sorts of uses. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Yep, definitely appreciate this. This is what tonight is for, to have a discussion, to have a kind of conversation about Dyer. Is there any other, do committee members wish to make any comments or ask any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Jackson.
Directors on board.
First, I just want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing your thoughts. I think there were some things that I haven't even considered or had heard yet. I was really surprised that these conversations had been happening so long, because up until, I think it was this summer or fall, I hadn't actually heard about it. And so I was shocked to find out that on February 27th of 2024, there was actually a meeting where renderings were unveiled. And I know I wasn't there because I was sitting on the stage that night. And so I don't know if anyone else from the board was invited to that meeting to see them, but I think we were all here. And so I think I really appreciate that this is on the agenda tonight, because if we don't have meetings in the public that are publicly noticed where people can see us deliberating and asking questions, I think that's when bad decisions are made. So I appreciate everyone kind of entertaining the conversation. I know it's still in the early stages. So I have a few thoughts, but I did want to ask Mr. Litzy a few questions. Mr. Litzy, are you able to talk about the Milwaukee Recreation Revitalization Plan and where Dyer falls on that plan?
Chair Jackson, fellow directors, Brian Litzy, Chief Family, Community, and Partnerships. Directors on board. Right now, if we looked at our equity matrix, we would say probably about 3 years we would get into community engagement, and that process takes us about a year. We do extensive community engagement, so if we don't have enough people to come out to one, we make sure we do another one, and so the process is very progressive in its nature. And if you've seen all of our other ones, you know that it takes a little while before we get to construction, because we are so thorough with community engagement. Because if you've heard any of us talk, whether that's Lynn Grebb, myself, or anybody else who's been at a ribbon cutting, the first thing we say is, this is your playfield. This is not ours. You helped design this. You helped build this. And this is your playfield. And what's here today is because of the work that you put in. So I would say about 3 years, give or take. I mean, there's always tariffs and things like that that may slow things down, but we generally have been on a pretty good schedule.
Director Zumbar.
Okay, thank you. And then just a question about, so I know the city owns the property, Milwaukee Recreation maintains it and programs it. Is it accurate to say that over the years, the city has shifted a lot of that recreational capital funding responsibilities of the playfields to MPS?
Administration.
Sure. Chair Jackson, board members Brian Litzy, Chief Community, what is my title? I can't say it, it's just long. Chief Family Partners and Partnerships. Yeah, you could say that. MPS, the board of directors and the administration have been supportive over more than a decade of this revitalization project. We have partnerships with the city as far as, certain things, but as far as the financing of all this has been ours of all 52 of the playfields. We maintain all of them. We pick up the garbage. We mow. Everything that you can name of for all 52 playfields have been our responsibilities, whether there's active programming or not at that playfield.
And I saw something in the media that made me think maybe there's a misunderstanding about where the funding comes from. So the funding that Milwaukee Recreation uses isn't funding that comes from the classroom. It's from the extension fund, correct?
Chair Jackson, board members Brian Litzy, Chief Family, Communities, and Partnerships. Got it right this time. Yes, you're right. It's extension funding that we've used, and we've used grants and things like that for all the renovation projects that we've done over the past decade or so.
Okay, that's great. So I think, as one of the speakers mentioned, Director Vanoy and I did go door to door, actually on Halloween. We were hoping we'd catch a lot of neighbors outside as they were getting ready for trick or treat. And we did have a flyer with a QR code on it. And so what board members have in front of them tonight are just some of the comments that we received from mostly neighbors in the community. I think some other people maybe got the QR code, but you can see the addresses are really from that Honey Creek Parkway neighborhood. And so there's comments there that we'll make sure all of the other board members receive. And in those conversations, I think what really stood out to me is that there was a lack of awareness about these conversations, which really surprised me because I had been told that 75% of people at the earlier meeting were in favor of this, and that was not what I experienced when I talked to neighbors out on doors. And so I think that it's really important that we're open and transparent with the community so that there's no surprises. And fundamentally, we are so fortunate that the early leaders of Milwaukee dreamt of a city where a child could have access to a public recreation space within walking distance from their home. And not only that, but the early leaders set us up with the model, the land, and the structures to be able to ensure that our playfields can serve generations to come. And it's all youth, it's adults, seniors, and I think that's a dream worth protecting to ensure that our public resources can make life better for our community. And it's an honor that MPS gets the opportunity to enrich the lives of all Milwaukeeans, and we're so proud of the fact that Milwaukee Recreation earned national accreditation for its recreation programming and planning, and I can't think of any organization in Milwaukee that's more committed or better equipped to carry out what the community wants for its neighborhood playfield than Milwaukee Recreation. So I personally believe that turning this treasured public space over to a private school through a long-term lease would undermine equitable access to public resources. It would restrict neighborhood use. It would prevent Milwaukee Recreation from fulfilling its programming role and divert a playfield that should serve the broader community, not just the needs of one single private institution. We know Milwaukee Recreation's award-winning park revitalization projects rely on community feedback so that it can be for the community by the community. I think leasing Dyer Playfield to a private school would bypass this process. And I appreciate everyone having the conversation tonight to make sure everyone knows there's another option to revitalize the playfield that doesn't have a price tag.
All right. Any response, administration, or are you clear?
Chair Jackson, members of the board, Brian Litzy, Chief Family, Communities, and Partnerships. I think I wanted to echo one thing that was talked about regarding utilization, right? We've heard the word utilization thrown around a few times. We have a designation of playfields here in Milwaukee Recreation, what we call our neighborhoods, our community, and we have pocket. Certain playfields, like the one Dyer, is designed for smaller usage, so we don't have mass amounts of large soccer leagues and things of that nature because of how it's located. If you want to think about Indra's Playfield, we don't put large events there unless the neighborhood association asks for it, but because of traffic patterns, parking, close to the houses, you put lights out there and things like that, you get a lot of issues. So when you say underutilized, that's really not, it's kind of a misnomer because we don't want to interfere with daily lives of people who live there. So that park or that playfield has that kind of designation as a neighborhood playfield where it's enjoyed. We do have small events there where it doesn't interfere with parking and things like that. It's not a WIC playfield. It's not a Burnham playfield where you can have large amounts of people and it's away from neighborhoods. So I wanted to make sure that people really realized when you say underutilized that there's some method to that we've used over the years to ensure that, sometimes it doesn't work. We do have, constituents call and say, hey, we got too much over here, and we deal with that. But to know is that it's not underutilized from a fact that it's desolate or nobody goes there. It's just that we don't put large programming there so it doesn't affect the neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yep, Director Herndon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would simply like to say that this hit me like a ton of bricks, and in the media is where I first saw it. I think that was less than fair for an issue of this type to not have been shared between the two entities, meaning the district and the city of Milwaukee. I think that, and what's worse is the residents therein, the residents that live around this playground, not being included in the conversations appropriately. In terms of the lease agreement, I'm totally against it. I feel that it's insane to even consider a lease agreement, number one, but one that lasts for 100 years. Are you kidding me? What would we be doing to the future of the city? What would we be doing to the community at large? As this gentleman said, he's invested in that neighborhood and he appreciates the usage that currently occurs. However, I can also tell you that our rec department has to be one of the best in the country. And I have cut a lot of ribbons at playground redevelopments throughout the city, and the work that they do is superb. The communities love them. I love them too. A lot of them have music instruments on them for the kids to come in and play with, depending on whether it's located on a school lot versus the community at large. So what I'm saying is that for Mr. Lipsey to say that it typically takes about 3 years from start to finish to redevelop a park, I've seen that, and that's pretty much what happens. But I think it would be unfair to the community to have us tell them how they should live. So what I'm hearing is, even in the media, in the list that the president presented to us tonight from the doors that she knocked on, there doesn't seem to be a real interest in this happening. So I'm sure there'll be further meetings going forward, but that's my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. And I'll just have just a quick comment as well. So I know Alderwoman Moore, who started the conversation previously, would like to just be more included in the conversation to build more of a collaboration with NPS and the city, because you can't have one without the other sitting at the table and making this decision. Other than that, I will say to you, Brian Litsky, thank you for mentioning, because I was thinking of it too, as the residents, the homeowners in the area. Don't want to cause too much of a disruption in that space, but just acknowledging them right now in this space as well. Are there any other comments or questions concerning this particular item? No? All right. There are several items that come each month as routine matters under a consent agenda. We will have one public comment period on consent agenda matters. After the public comment period, if board members wish to ask any questions or comments on specific items, they may set aside those items for separate discussion by the board. No additional public comments will be accepted. Any items that are not set aside will be approved with one motion. We will not have formal presentation with one consent agenda item. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public wish to comment or any consent agenda items?
We do not.
All right. I would like to set aside item 2. Are there any other items on the consent agenda that the board members wish to set aside? I'm just thinking right now, perusing through the list. Yes. Director Zomborg?
Could I set aside number 3? I think that's the item with the grants. Just wanted to look at that really quickly.
All right. All right. May I please have a motion to approve the consent of the agenda items? Yes.
I move to approve the balance of the consent item, the consent agenda items.
Gotcha. Motion by Director Zomborg. Can I have a second? No second, that's right, excuse me. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
On Director Zomber's motion to approve the balance of the committee consent agenda items, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
and Chair Jackson.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
All right. Now, Madam Secretary, what is the first item set aside?
Mr. Chair, the first item set aside is item 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases, decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. This item was set aside at the request of the chair.
Absolutely. So my question to administration was understanding first off the pay schedule of how is it categorized, such as you have A, 8, and 17C, understanding that. Because I know for me, I'm still, once again, it's like, all right, it's a little foreign language, but overall, just to give a public a little more clarity on what that is. It's just employees as well. Those are new.
Chair Jackson, members of the board, I have with me Dominic Maniscalco, who will talk a little bit more about how we structure our compensation and a little bit about compensation committee, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Casalius. Good evening, board members. Dominic Maniscalco, Chief of Human Resources. Excuse me, Director Jackson. Our salary schedule is based on a lot of different things, but there are several components to it. One of those components are actual job classifications or job titles. The categories in which you mentioned, the A, the C, the D, and the T, we have several different classifications based off of the work calendar that an employee works. We have 10-month staff, we have 11-month staff, and then we have 10-month staff. So that's why you see the differentiation of coding amongst the employee groups. Within our grades, essentially, the levels, we start from grade 0A all the way to 19A, which is, at the 0A, we have an assistant all the way from 19A, which is a deputy superintendent, and then the last level is a superintendent of schools. And then within that, we have a minimum range, minimum salary range, we have a midpoint, and we have a max. So essentially, we're going from 1% to 100, and then we in Human Resources are determining a baseline for those positions that we have within all of those classifications. I will tell you that we are doing a lot of work on the compensation side of the house, really setting standard operating procedures around how we want to administer compensation to make sure it's fair, equitable, and that we're factoring in internal equity in all of our equations. And I will tell you that is a very new process that we've been going through in Human Resources. So every Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month, we have a compensation committee that resumes and looks at compensation requests that staff formally submit to Human Resources. There is a process for that. An employee has to get approval from their supervisor as well as the chief of that department if they would like a compensation review, whether that's a reclassification, title change, comp adjustment in terms of the actual salary. We take a real deep dive into that, and the compensation committee consists of myself as the chief of human resources, as well as the senior director of compensation and benefits, the senior director of talent management, and our manager of compensation. So you have 4 subject matter expertise in the area of compensation making these decisions. We look at market analysis, but we look at for-profit organizations as well as nonprofit organizations, depending on the requests coming before us, as well as internal equity. So that is the long and the short of the compensation committee, grades, job titles, and the salary ranges, but happy to do a deeper dive if you'd like.
No, I just know, so we started this compensation study 2 years ago, and it is not, trust me, the blame is not on current leadership, but I will ask, and the board would definitely vouch for it as well. Once it's, well, not even completed, but as we going through this process, could we see something in black and white, you know, to actually have for our own sake that's tangible to give out to the public as well, so everybody's aware of what's going on instead of just saying we're doing it, but we don't see it.
Thank you, Director Jackson. To that point, in 2 days, what's 2 days? On Thursday, yep,
Yes.
for the full board meeting, we will be presenting the HR audit under the superintendent's report, and we will give you more information on the 6-month compensation program that we're going to be utilizing, the 2023 study as a baseline, and then we're going to kind of map it out over the next 6 months as we bring recommendations to the board every month. That'll all be given to you at a high-level overview on Thursday in
Gotcha.
2 days.
Understood. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any committee members have any questions related to this item? No? Okay. Director's on board.
Just how's that for?
Oh, right. Man,
2 days. There you go.
feels good.
We aim to please.
I appreciate it. This item was set aside. Questions, do board members? No, we good. What the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director's on board.
I move approval of the administration's recommendation.
If there's no further discussion, Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Zomber's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
and Chair Jackson.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
And typically, Director O'Halloran would do this part, so I'm going to do my best. Before we move on, the chair would like to congratulate all the candidates recommended for appointment, promotion, or transfers. And we celebrate this important step in your career journey and appreciate your commitment to serving Milwaukee Public Schools. Absolutely. Did I do okay? All right. Madam Secretary, next item of business, please.
Mr. Chair, we are now back to the remainder of the agenda. The next item is, my apologies, item 3 was set aside as well. So item 3 is action on monthly finance matters, authorization to make purchases, report on change orders in excess of $25,000, acceptance of the report on revenues and expenditures, report on contracts under $50,000, and cumulative total report, report on monthly grant awards, acceptance of donations.
Gotcha. Will the administration please present this item?
Chair Jackson, Director Zambor, I have with me Aicha Saba, who will answer any questions that you have regarding this item.
All right. Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Jackson. The only question I had, I was just wondering if the administration could talk a little bit, looking at the monthly grant awards, and just talk a little bit about the grant from the U.S. Department of Education. Oh, looks like the Ed Gear Up.
Is it you're asking about the Gear Up grant, Director Zambor?
The Gear Up grant, yep.
Okay, let me get Jennifer Mimhouse, probably.
No problem. So we're just working on getting the correct staff to discuss.
Director Zambor, I think it's coming in December. The Gear Up grant is coming in December.
Okay.
Do you want
It just,
us
I mean,
to?
it looks
I mean,
like
we
a
got
lot of-
$23 million over 7
Yeah.
years. It's going to be working with our middle schoolers to follow them through for career and college readiness. And we're super excited, super competitive grant. I think there's only one given in the state. So we're very, very excited. We had a press release just the other day over at Carson. Super proud of our students at Carson who were excited to talk with me about their learning. But happy to present like what we're actually going to do with it. We're working with partners, with mentors. We're working with the Milwaukee Mentor. Just a number of partners that are going to be working with us on that grant.
Director Zumber?
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. And just want to congratulate the administration on getting the grant, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, less money to come out of our budget, so that's always a great thing. All right. Any other questions on this particular item? No? Okay. Madam Secretary, we are now back to the remainder of the agenda.
We would need a motion on this item?
Yes, my apologies. Director Zambor.
I move approval of the administration's recommendation on monthly finance matters.
Secretary, please call the roll, please.
On Director Zomber's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on monthly finance matters, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
Chair Jackson.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
All right. Madam Secretary, what is the next item of business?
Mr. Chair, we are now back to the remainder of the agenda. The next item is action on a request to approve a conservation easement between Milwaukee Public Schools, the City of Milwaukee, and Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. The recommendation is that the board approve the limited-term conservation easement between Milwaukee Public Schools and the City of Milwaukee in favor of the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District.
Will the administration please present this item?
Chair Jackson, members, this evening we're asking your approval on an item before you as it pertains to the conservation easement between MPS and the City of Milwaukee and Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. I have here with me Mike Terza, Interim Chief of Facilities and Maintenance Services, to review this information with you, and following will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Director Jackson, members of the committee, Michael Terza, Interim Chief Operations Officer. What we have before you is kind of a routine item. Many times the Milwaukee Sewage District will come to us and ask us to have parts of our playfields or our grounds used for water conservation, various projects like that, stormwater management type of things. The agreement is basically they put in the improvements and we maintain them over the course of the easement, which in this case would be 11 years. And what it provides us is that it gives us an opportunity to improve the area. It also gives us an opportunity to have kids part of the process of maintaining it. And so it's usually considered pretty much a win-win for both parties.
Understood. Any questions or comments from any directors? All right. This is non-related, and tell me, have we received any funds yet from, whether it be FEMA, anything to help with any improvements moving forward? Because I know the flood caused quite a bit of issues. Or is that non-related?
Chair Jackson, members, I'm not aware of any funds that
Okay.
we've received yet with FEMA and the flood. Now, the city may have received something, and this may be something with the city's reassessment around flood mitigation and maybe why they're coming to us now, but it also is a matter of routine matters of just really water flow and our easements and working with the city.
Understood.
Yeah.
I just know we maintain it, that's all. So, okay, thank you. All right. And what's the recommendation of the board as we approve this item for the, I'm sorry, do any members, no, we don't. Do committee members have any comments? No? All right. What's the pleasure, excuse me, of the committee in respect to this item?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations of administration on this item.
There we go. Madam Secretary, may you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on this item, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
and Chair Jackson.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
All right. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Mr. Chair, item 3 is action on a request to approve the proposed 2026-2027 and 2027-2028 district-wide school calendars. The recommendation is that the board approve the proposed 2026-2027 and 2027-2028 district-wide school calendars.
All right. Will the administration please present this item?
This evening, Chair Jackson, members, Brenda Casellia, Superintendent. This evening, I'm joined by Chief of Staff Michael Harris to present the recommended school calendars for the 26-27 and 27-28 school years, also referred to as FY 27 and FY 28 calendars. Before I turn it over to Mr. Harris, I want to first acknowledge the significant effort that brought us to this point. To my knowledge, and in my entire career, this is the first time that the administration here and the first time I personally have ever been able to be in a position to bring 2 school year calendars at one time. It's hard enough bringing one school year, but getting agreement on 2 school year calendars at once is just extraordinary. This milestone reflects an incredible amount of time, coordination, analysis, and input from our community and multiple stakeholders, and the collaboration that had to happen to bring it here. And I want to really thank Mr. Harris for his leadership in that, and all of our many partners over at MTEA, ASC, our parents for filling out the QR codes and coming to meetings and understanding the calendars. We got some early feedback about our half-days. You won't see any half-days in this calendar. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we really listened, that, we had multiple focus groups. We revised the calendar after getting information. We had some errors on the calendar that got brought to our attention that we were able to fix. And that's the whole vetting process, and that's the reason we engage in this process, so that everybody gets their eyes on it. We can make corrections. We can make sure we're prioritizing student instructional time, that everybody is represented, everybody has a voice in the calendar, and that we're able to really surround the calendar around what our students need. And this is a student-centered calendar based on larger blocks of instructional time so that teachers aren't interrupted, and then time for teachers to do their professional development, as well as vacation time for families and rest and just mental health. And so I'm really proud of the team, proud of Mr. Harris and the work that we did, and proud of the collaboration that we did with MTA. And I want to thank him for this incredible step forward in providing our families and staff with an earlier, cleaner timeline. They can plan and be prepared. So thank you. We'll take your questions.
Gotcha. Mr. Harris, anybody got any questions on this? Excuse me. Any board members, any questions? Director Sunboard.
Thank you, Chair Jackson. Could the administration talk a little bit about the July district closure days? Are those days meant to be in lieu of the wellness days that we had previously? I know there was a resolution that we were doing that. So are these days in lieu of that?
Administration.
Chair Jackson and members of the committee, Michael Harris, Chief of Staff. Yes, that is exactly what we were strategically trying to do around that holiday, to give everyone that mental wellness break so that we really didn't disrupt the operations. You know, July, the summers are really busy for us with staffing, with getting schools ready. And so we felt that that was a really good time to kind of shut operations down, communicate to our families in an orderly and timely manner so that everyone could plan accordingly. And then everyone comes back to really jumpstart the school year and get everything ready.
I do want to note, Chair Jackson and Director Zombor, however, there will be some essential employees that will be identified because we do have basic operations that we will still need to have for safety and maintenance of our buildings and payroll. So they'll work that out with their supervisors. And so I also plan to bring forward to the committee and to the full board shift with the resolution around our mental health days so that we can codify these days in the calendar as well, just so that we take care of the original resolution, but we had this a little bit before we did that piece, but we'll make sure we do the other piece as well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. No. All right. What's the pleasure of the committee in respects to this item? Yep. Director Herndon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, I recommend that we accept the recommendations, or I move that we accept the recommendations of the administration.
Madam Secretary, may you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Zomber,
Aye.
Chair Jackson.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, excuse me, next item, please.
Mr. Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Okay. As a reminder, a meeting of the Committee on Legislation, Rules, and Policies will begin shortly. There being no further business before this committee, we are now adjourned.